Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this video. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeff Clausen. I own a suspension shop in Kamloops, British Columbia called GP Moto. Been doing suspension work since 2009-ish, and yeah, just wanted to bring or show you guys some stuff that I was teasing you about last week on social media about some revolutionary new product or an advancement in product that I'm super excited about. Anytime we have a product that is released to our motocross community that is game changer in terms of comfort or performance or some aspect that makes riding our bike or using our bikes way more enjoyable, is always super cool and exciting to me. And I think it's worth letting you all know about this particular one. So in our industry, I feel like there's a huge trend that's growing, and that's the snow bike industry. Over the last few years, Camso, Yeti, Timbersled, they've all made huge leaps or growth in both in terms of sales and in terms of product. The kits are getting better and better. They handle better. The suspension on them is better. They fit better. They take less power to turn them. They weigh less. It's a huge growing aspect in a very short period of time of the motorcycle industry. I consider it the motorcycle industry. I guess it's power sports industry. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about one of the shortcomings that I feel there is on this snow bike conversion that you put onto your dirt bike. I just mentioned to you that Timbersled Timbersled owned by Polaris, but Yeti and all these other manufacturers, they've developed such a good package in terms of their suspension and how the skid and how the whole back half of the bike that you bolt on performs. But we still have the front part of the bike that's the original equipment from the dirt bike or the motorcycle manufacturer, and that's the fork and steering. So the product I want to talk about today is a fork cartridge kit that's built by MX Tech. If you guys aren't familiar with MX Tech, it's a suspension company based out of Bradley, Illinois, owned by Jeremy Wilkey. And he's got a phenomenal group of staff underneath him, and they build amazing products. Their National Shock and their Lucky cartridges are kind of, in my opinion, revolutionizing the suspension industry. But today I wanted to talk about the MX Tech, the Generation 2 Lucky cartridge, or the Lucky Carbon. It's the only cartridge at this time laid out behind me on the bench there. We'll take a closer look in a sec, but it's the only cartridge system at this time that's built specifically for snow bikes, or that he's built a cartridge system specifically for snow bikes. So the valving that comes in these cartridges is snow bike tested and specific. The spring rate that comes in this cartridge kit is snow bike specific. And there's one more huge factor that I want to talk about that is also snow bike specific, and this is something that's been bugging me about the snow bike industry for a long time. And this comes from just me as a suspension guy, seeing damaged suspension or fork components come in from snow bike use. And that's the fact that the leverage ratio on a fork on a snow bike is so big, because instead of a rear wheel at the end of a swing arm, now we have a big track hanging out the back of the bike. So we need to dramatically increase spring rate and damping in order to keep the bike balanced and keep the fork from having uncontrolled bottoming issues. So lots of suspension tuners will address spring rate and valving, and there's really good settings to hold that fork up in the stroke and make it stiffer and have less frequent bottoming. But as you and I both know, whether it's a motocross or snow bike or trials or endurocross or off-road riding, we always experience gentle bottoming here and there, and that's okay. That's part of how the suspension works. The problem that we've run into with snow bikes is that the mechanical bottom out or mechanical stop of a fork, the way the manufacturer intended it to be, is not being used when a snow bike fork bottoms out. On a snow bike, we have our ski on the front with our spindle and our ski clamps that go around our fork tubes. And these ski clamps are roughly just over an inch tall, 30, depending on the manufacturer, 30, 35 millimeters tall. And now we're literally smashing the fork seals, the dust seal, the fork seal, into the top of the ski clamp when we're bottoming out these forks. So now we've got, and a lot of people run fork skins and or other neoprene boots or guards on their fork tubes to prevent ice and snow buildup from getting into your fork seals and causing fork seal failure or leakage. So now we've got this unintended bottoming device of parts physically smashing into each other that were never intended for that purpose. And we get failed fork dust seals, and which then leads to failed fork oil seals. And we get a lot of moisture and contamination up into our fork oil, which causes a number of issues with the performance of the oil, as well as causing issues with oxidation and premature wear of components inside the fork from bushings and seals and wear parts in the fork, because now the oil, the lubricity in the oil is not nowhere near what it was supposed to be or ever intended to be. So what I've got here is a WP fork in my vise, and I've just kind of temporarily loosely attached the aluminum bracket that's part of a ski clamp for a timber sled ski. And I just wanted to highlight to you or show you the issue that that fork seal is not designed to be the bump stop. And that's what we're getting here. We're getting a mechanical stopping of the ski, or of the ski clamp stopping the fork. It's becoming the bottom out. And that is not what the fork dust seal is designed to do. So over here, I'm going to show you some of the components that make this MX Tech Lucky cartridge fork system. Okay, so here we have it. This is the fork cartridge laid out. Here is the complete cartridge assembly. This is what you would receive: 2 of these and 2 springs. So 1 set of cartridges and 1 set of springs. So that's the cartridge, and this is kind of how it breaks down. So the least complicated component, we have the cartridge body. This is the spring seat where the spring would sit. And then there's the, I guess, seal head assembly. And at the bottom, this is where the base valve threads into the cartridge. Here's your base valve assembly. Threads in there. And then this retaining nut would go on the outside, and that's what holds this cartridge into your fork. So, in your base valve, we would have a compression piston or a base valve itself. And this is where your shim stack goes on top of here to create all your compression damping. So that's a MX Tech Gen 2 base valve piston. So that is right here, okay? Then here is your shim stack, where that, again, like I said earlier, a snow bike specific compression shim stack. On the bottom of your fork, sticking out the lug at the bottom, would be your compression adjuster, 4mm Allen key. So we can make normal adjustments just like a normal cartridge fork. And then the coolest part of this assembly is the Huck valve part of it. So this is a larger Huck valve assembly than in a normal Lucky cartridge. I'll get into this a little more in a second. Here's the damping rod that goes inside your cartridge. Spring guide, coated damping rod, Kashima coated damping rod, top out spring. And then we have your mid valve shim stack for compression damping in the initial part of the stroke. We've got our rebound piston, MX Tech rebound piston. And then our rebound shim stack that obviously controls rebound forces generated by the fork spring. Now the cool part about this, normally there'd just be a nut there if this was a normal fork on a KYB or a KTM. But with the MX Tech cartridge, now we have our Huck valve piston assembly. So we have the male and female, I guess, part of the Huck valve. So as your fork nears the last couple inches of stroke, this piston drops into the Huck valve and dramatically increases your compression damping. This gives a very, very controlled bottoming situation. It eliminates that harsh metallic bottoming that you would get, which is very, on a WP, like an AER fork, not so bad, but on a WP4CS fork or some conventional KYB or Showa forks, when you have a mechanical bottom out, sometimes you get a really harsh metallic bottoming. So we want to use all of our suspension travel. We want to use our stroke right to the bottom, but having this Huck valve prevents that harsh bottoming and allows us to go to within millimeters of like, or sometimes hitting actual physical mechanical bottom out. But it happens in such a controlled, comfortable situation. It's way less damaging to components inside your fork and just way less wear and tear on everything. This is an amazing system. It works really, really well. I've got it on multiple sets of forks that I own, my off-road forks and my motocross forks. And I can't say enough about how good it is. So another thing I want to touch base on about this being a snow bike specific cartridge is that a huge popularity is KTMs, Husqvarnas, and now gases eventually. And the AER fork is very prone to air spring failure in cold weather. So converting to a coil spring, a mechanical coil spring fork, is a huge advantage for fork performance as well as your safety as a rider. I don't want you to be way out in the back of Crowfoot or wherever you ride up in, you know, you can get in some pretty gnarly situations or circumstances out in the forest and you have a fork failure with an AER fork. So it's a serious liability. So this is great peace of mind that you're not gonna have a spring failure due to an air leak on an AER fork. So here's our fork cap that sits on top of the fork spring. Again, rebound adjustment on the top of the fork. Same thing, 4mm Allen key, just like the bottom. I personally really like the 4mm Allen key for a couple reasons. I can just keep one Allen key in my hydration pack or in my toolkit or whatever, and that will not only cover my any compression or rebound adjustment I need to make, but for those of you that run recluse clutches on a KTM or a hydraulic clutch manufactured bike like the new Cowies and stuff, more and more bikes are coming up with hydraulic clutches. The 4mm Allen key allows you to adjust the slave cylinder, that if you ever need to bump start your bike for any reason, you can back that hydraulic slave cylinder out with that 4mm Allen key. So great little double feature there. So yeah, this is it. This is the whole Lucky Gen 2 fork cartridge system. These retail for $1,200 US and Canadian. With the conversion rate currently we're around $1,650, so $1,650. For me personally, I can't speak for other dealers, but at GP Moto I include installation with that price of $1,650. Includes oil and everything. You bring me your forks, you get them back snow bike ready. So the cool thing about this system is what I just said, how simple it is to install and remove from your snow forks or your dirt forks, whichever part of the season you're going. So in the fall when you come in, you want to service your forks before the winter season. I remove all your fork components, your summer stuff, wash them, clean them, put them in a box, tuck them away. We take our snow bike cartridges and we drop the pre-assembled snow bike valving, snow bike spring rate, put the cartridge body into your dirt bike forks, bolt it in, fill it up full of oil, bleed it, set our oil height, screw the cap back on, you're ready to go. When you're done with snow biking, we remove your cartridges, we wash them all up, we clean them up, box them up, you tuck them away for summer. Take your summer components, put them back in the fork, fill them with oil, you're ready to go for summer riding. This is an extremely inexpensive system. You're gonna service your forks in the spring and in the fall anyways, so there's no longer an added expense of having to completely revalve them and spring them for snow bikes. This kit can be carried over if you have AER forks and then you switch to a different fork. You had 4CS and now you have AER. There's just a couple components we can switch, and this fork is super flexible and it can be put into any other fork, or this cartridge system I should say can be put in any other fork. So again, with this system, now that we've addressed travel, we no longer get that situation of unintended components smashing into new components that were never designed for the dirt bike, causing a mechanical bottom out. We have a controlled mechanical bottom out with controlled hydraulic bottoming control in the last bit of the stroke. So phenomenal fork cartridge system. Really excited about this. I'm stoked for you guys because we finally have something that is addressing the shortcomings that were pre-existing that nobody had a solution for. So super stoked about this. Thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out today and listening to me go on about this stuff for you. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can hit me up, Jeff, Geoff, at gpmoto.ca. That's my website, www.gpmoto.ca. All my contact information's on there, phone number and everything. You can text me, call me, email me. Jeremy's website, www.mx-tech.com. Another great website. He's got all the different models listed on there. He's got pictures of all the components, some of the stuff that we went over here today. He's got, yeah, a bunch of good stuff. Information on National Shocks, information on the Lucky cartridges, a lot of the other stuff that he sells from MX Tech. Fantastic company, super knowledgeable guy. I love working with him. Makes my job easy because he makes such good products. So I've been working with these fork cartridges to get this limited travel. This is something Jeremy and I started talking about a year ago, and I can't thank him enough for helping me to put this to execute it and bring it to you guys. So West Coast boys and girls, super excited for you. This is gonna make your snow biking experience way more enjoyable. So thank you again for checking this out. And like I said, hit me up, shoot me a message, and let's get some of these cartridges out into your guys' bikes and get some feedback. Thanks again, have a great day.